Thanks for tuning in. We're out with the family, but we want to reward you with something so big that the team had to call me, and I was like, y'all have lost your minds.
Brian, that's right. It is Black Friday, and we know that you love Black Friday.
I love a deal.
We want to make some deals for you. So right now, you can actually get 20% off both of our Know Your Number course as well as our net worth tool, but that's not all.
Bo, you got to tell them, because 2024 was the year of Millionaire Mission.
That's right.
So this is the origin story of the financial order of operations. So we were like, you know what? Special year, special things need to happen. So this was the cray-cray part. Tell them the deets.
This is nuts. We've never offered the Financial Order of Operations course for this low, but we are going to make it available to you for $49 because we believe it's something that you should have access to that realistically can change your life. But you can only get this deal from now until December the 2nd. That will be your last day to capitalize on it. So make sure, if you've been waiting to work through the course, you jump on it right now.
Yeah, this was the moment. Like I said, they called me and they said, Bo has an idea. And I'm like, that is crazy. But I think it's actually brilliant, so let's do it. So I got to tell you, this is an opportunity. I want to tell you also, thank you, thank you, thank you. We could not do any of this stuff without you guys and all your support. And I love that we get to spend Thanksgiving paying it forward and giving you deals of a lifetime. So what happens when your big life priorities are competing?
Brian, I am so excited to talk about this because this happens to all of us. We want to get different things done. We have different priorities in our life, and we try to figure out, how do we prioritize them? I love that we can speak into that kind of stuff, and I love that we can speak into questions that you have. It's why every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. we like to do a live stream where we answer your questions. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to you, to Creative Director Reby.
Yeah, I've got a question about this very thing from Dev to kick us off. He says, my fiance is graduating from med school in 2 years and will have $300K in loans before she starts residency at $50K a year to start. I make $200K a year. How do we handle this debt and this what's going on while saving for a home/wedding? That's a lot of things. Med school, home, wedding. What do you have to say to Dev and his fiance?
Well, Dev, first let me give you the good news, the good part. It sounds like you guys have a big shovel. If your income is $200,000 and your fiance's income is going to be $50,000, that's $250,000 a year you're going to have coming in. So it's okay to have a lot of competing financial priorities when you got a really big shovel to figure out how to tackle those. Now, the one downside that Dev said is, but in addition to this big shovel we have $300,000 of loans, and we have other priorities. I mean, I'm sure we want to get rid of this debt and we want to pay it off, and we want to begin building for financial independence and retirement, but also we want to get married. And I'm guessing by the fact that you have to save up for the wedding, that you have to shoulder some of the responsibility for that. And as we start our lives together, we want to buy a home. And so the very first thing, Dev, I think that you and your fiance need to do is, if you've not yet had the financial conversation around, hey, what are our priorities? You should do that. And you guys should sit down and talk about, hey, are we working towards being financially independent one day? Do we want to live a life where we get to do what we want to do on our terms, the way that we want to do it? Or do we want to have like a knockdown, drag out, amazing, blow it out wedding? And you have to figure out how you prioritize those types of things. And based on how you prioritize your goals, will determine how you should begin funding said goals.
What kept popping in my mind was begin with the end in mind. And I think that on paper, first of all, there's a lot of chaos because you've got $300,000 of student loan debt sitting out there. You got marriage, coming up. You're asking about housing. That is messy middle for a whole different reason than typically it's kids and other things. But I still begin with the end in mind, because what's going to happen is right now you feel the pressure, you feel the weight of that student loan debt. Mm-hmm. And it's in that deferred building stage right now, but you still feel the weight of it. What I'm worried about, and this is why I want to change your mindset, there's going to come a time when your fiance graduates from her residency and gets actually her first real big job. Probably going to be making $300,000 plus.
Hopefully, if that's the student loan debt.
I mean, because that's, remember, the whole thing. You're hopefully doing
First
this for
year
what's your
salary,
first year salary. And with medical, I know there's sometimes some weirdness to it. But it's going to be a big shovel. You make $200,000, which great income. So you guys all of a sudden are going to go from a situation, essentially it's like Cinderella. You know, you're running around in your raggedy dress, and then all of a sudden now, boom, you've got this big income coming in. You've just got to make sure when the clock strikes midnight that it all doesn't go back to you being in rags again. And the way I would encourage you, instead of going from this rags to riches, let's actually don't make the mistake that most medical students do is I would go ahead and encourage you and your fiance, go ahead and have those difficult conversations right now and say, hey, what can we be doing right now to make sure we don't get out of hand on the wedding? Second thing, what can we do right now to make sure that maybe the house we're trying to get into isn't the house that we're going to live in 7 to 10 years, but it's the house that we're going to start this relationship and maybe even start this family with, so it can check those boxes, but not be what I think everybody thinks a doctor and a successful professional should have. Because if you get that out of your mind, you're going to already be in a head start because you've got a lot of pressure. And right now you'll be in the faking it until you make it phase just because you have a lot of potential, but you haven't actually met the opportunity to get out of debt and everything else that's coming your way. So those are the two big things that I see right now. And then after she gets her first real job, and you'll move on. By the way, take into account that she might get her first real job out of state. Y'all go ahead and have that conversation too.
Is to figure now out the right time to be buying a house even.
And figure out how that impacts your job, because you have a big shovel as well. So these are the bigger, begin with the end in mind, bigger elements that need to be addressed. And then just navigate as you get more and more of the picture becomes clear. Think about how do we get ourselves out of this, and I would use the financial order of operations to kind of be your navigator so that then you come out on the other side of you actually have your dream job. She has her dream job. Y'all know all the parameters of the debt, and you look at the financial order of operations and you figure out, hey, how do we build this wealth in a great way and then have this life that is the fairy tale, just like Cinderella.
The other thing that I would encourage you to do, since you guys are thinking about home ownership, is if you go to moneyguy.com/resources, we have an entire home buying hub out there where you can walk through our home buying checklist. And can you affirmatively answer, hey, if we buy this home today, we feel pretty confident we're going to be there for at least 5 to 7 years? Because that's a great point. If she gets a job somewhere else, or if you have to move, home ownership might not need to be one of the top priorities that you guys have right now. So make sure you go to the website, use all of the home buying resources out there so that you can make a wise financial decision and live your happily ever after. I was trying to tie it in with you. I was trying to stay in the fairy tale.
No, that was great. You showed a lot of the nuance that is in this situation like this, because personal finance is personal. So Dev, thank you for asking that question. Hopefully that gives you some things to think about as you think through your financial situation moving forward. All right. Next up, we've got a question from Gemax1999. It says, on the last video, you talked about parents helping kids. Do you have any advice when it's the other way around? Currently, we are helping our parents in our native country. However, this prevents us from getting all the way to the 25% savings rate. Since in our retirement, we will not be helping our parents, do you think this is okay? Currently, we are saving 16%. We're 30 and 25 years old, and we're dinks, so double income, no kids. So what do you have to say to this type of situation? Because we honestly get this a lot. There are different family dynamics, different structures where sometimes it is this other way around.
So you said they're 30 and 25?
Yes.
Is that right? Well, this is a hard one, or I should say this is a nuanced one, because here's what we're not going to say to you. Hey, you know what? Your parents, they're kind of on their own. Just kick them to the curb. Right, because that's not the way that we want to approach how we interact and how we handle this life. And you have to remember that money is nothing more than a tool that allows you to achieve the goals that you have. And for you as the child, one of the goals you may have is, hey, I want to make sure my parents are okay. I want to make sure my parents are provided for. You know, we talk about how it's okay if you don't prioritize saving for your kids, because when they get to college, they're going to be able to get student loans and they're going to be able to work and they're going to be able to do all of these other things. When it comes to your parents, it's a little bit different because likely there's not government, retirement loans from the government that are going to be available to them. So you're forced with a really difficult predicament in terms of, okay, what are our financial priorities and what are our goals? And if one of the goals is, hey, I want to be able to provide assistance to my parents, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but you need to have a very real understanding of the opportunity cost that exists there. If that is something that is going to be a goal and that's something you're going to prioritize, you may be giving something up. It may be early retirement, or it may be a more fruitful retirement, or it may be more flexibility, or whatever those things be. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You just need to go into it with eyes wide open. You need to figure out, okay, what are the things that what's the way that we want our life to look later on? And can we still help our parents and be a resource for them and show assistance to them while not completely sacrificing our total financial future, but also recognizing, hey, if we only save 16% from now until the time we get to retirement, that's going to be a very different looking retirement than if we were able to save 25% starting at the age of 20 and 25.
Well, I got excited when I heard the ages because I first want to take a little pressure off, and then I'll come back with the tough love part. But we pull up, and this might be something pull up right on the screen, but I always call it, what can 25% do for you?
Love it.
If you pull that illustration up, you'll quickly see that one of the few places that are bright spots is that when you're below 25%, for people in their 20s, and even right at the early 30 part, a little bit goes a long way.
That's
so
right.
I want to take a little pressure off of you in that aspect. And then the second homework I would give you after you go to moneyguy.com/resources and look at that resource is you might want to go ahead and do the full Know Your Number course to figure out how much you're actually hurting yourself, or is this just a reality of your life? But I think by actually modeling out your cash flow, your savings rate, anticipated rate of return, inflation, and all the other things, you're going to be able to quickly see, is this changing your trajectory in a big way? Or is this just a course correction where you're off 1 or 2 degrees and you just need to make some lifestyle decisions right now? But you're not going to know that unless you actually do the work. And then the good news is, because you're also addressing this at such a young age. Like right now, I have a case where I'm helping figure this out where it's a very similar situation. You have an adult parent that they know that in the next 8 to 9 years, they're going to have to really start providing a lot of the income. But I'm like, that 8 or 9 years is actually a huge blessing.
There's a lot of time still.
Because it lets you really do some planning to see if you can mitigate the actual impact of this. The first thing is, are you in this alone? Meaning, are there any siblings? Because if you have 8 to 9 years, or you have some period of time, you could pull together the committee of all the loved ones that are involved in this. And because it's a group and you have time, maybe the solution is very small. Hey, can each one of you guys, can we start putting $50 a month into this account that we're going to be growing for the parents' benefit? And then you'd be shocked, just like we talked about the power of compounding growth, those small decisions, especially when you get multiple people involved with it, can have huge impacts. So that's what I would try to figure out. Are there things that can mitigate by knowing how much time you have, how many other loved ones are involved in this decision making, and you just take the reins of leadership, but you got to do the homework. Don't skip out on figuring out how far ahead you are through the 25%. Don't skip out on Know Your Number course, and then don't skip out on going ahead and attacking this right now, so every ounce of time that you have on your side can be going towards finding the solution.
Love it.
Fantastic. Jim X 1999, thank you for the question. If you want that resource that Brian talked about, you can go to moneyguy.com/resources, click on how much should you save. It's going to show you exactly how much of your income you can replace in retirement based on your current savings rate. And you can see what 25% can do for you. All right. Ryan's question is up next. Ready for it?
Yes, ma'am.
It says, is it better to rent out your first home when you're ready to buy and move into a new home? Or should you sell it and invest the equity in an index fund? I have $200K in equity with 2.6% interest on my first home. Thank you. What would you say to Ryan?
It depends. Next question.
Wow, that's
No,
all.
I'm just kidding. Of course, it depends, right? Sometimes, if you find yourself where maybe you got a steal of a deal, you got an amazing first home in a community that had not maybe fully developed, and you got in that home, and now all of a sudden that community is blown up. And it is a highly desired community where there are people who are desperate to rent in that community, and the home values are continuing to increase. We've seen a lot of this in the metro Nashville area where people bought homes that were not crazy expensive 8 or 10 years ago. The homes have ballooned in value, and they're still going up in value, and there's an amazing, robust rental market. If that's the case, you may very well decide, man, I've got this mortgage rate at like 2.5%, and I know that I can fill renters in there, and the rental income that I have coming in more than covers my mortgage and creates free cash flow for me. Then that mathematically might suggest, hey, it's a great idea to keep the first home and keep it as a rental and then move on to your next home, so long as you don't run afoul of any of the money guide rules, meaning that on your second home, you got to put at least 20% down. You want to make sure that you don't have all of your housing payments exceed 25% of your gross income. And for the new home, do you see yourself being there for at least 5 to 7 years? Now, the opposite could be true too. You may have bought a home and it went up in value, but maybe it's in a more suburban area and there's not a robust rental market. And so you don't know what the tenants are going to look like, or maybe you don't even want to be a landlord. If that were the case, then perhaps selling the house makes sense. In my mind, I think it really does depend.
Well, I look at this as when I visualize, I think of somebody who's in a beautiful picture with a fork in the road moment, meaning that blue sky, sunny days, meaning this is a beautiful moment to have yourself in. It's where it's really two great opportunities. Because if you have $200,000 of equity in this house and you have this low interest rate of 2.6%, here's the part that I didn't hear you ask about, which, like I said, you have two beautiful opportunities here. On your primary residence, as long as you lived in it 2 of the last 5 years, as a single individual, it's $250,000 of tax-free gain, meaning the government's just going to let you take the proceeds, throw them in your back pocket, you put them into the new house, you put them into your investments. It's your choice. Choose your own adventure. That's incredible. By the way, if you're married, because I can't remember if Ryan shared if he was single or married, it's $500,000, $500,000. Pretty incredible opportunity. Second thing is with good opportunities, the other fork of the road is turning it into a rental property. And look, and I get it. If your interest rate's 2.6%, that's like, wow, you hate to walk away. You know that there's actual value just in that loan itself, plus the fact that you have all this equity that's in this house because of how much houses have appreciated. That can be a pretty good opportunity too, as long as, and Bo hit on all these things, you're not skipping the step of making sure on the second home you're putting down 20%. You don't get out of that just because you have this great opportunity with this primary that you're considering turning into a rental. And then I would ask you to really do the gut check. I think I have a client who did outstanding in real estate, and the fact that he bought a whole fleet of rental properties right after the Great Recession. There couldn't have been a better time to do rental property because, let's face it, interest rates were super low. Banks had more homes and they knew what to do with, so they were literally selling homes for cheaper than the material that went in to build these homes. This was a once in a lifetime. But even this client who struck gold with his rental real estate portfolio, he's getting in his late 50s. And he told me, he's like, look, I love these houses. They've created a lot of wealth for my family. However, I just don't want the headache anymore. It's, there is no, even good rental real estate is not going to be completely passive, to do it right, to keep your tenants well, and make sure nobody's tearing stuff up. So I would do a gut check on yourself. Do you have the aptitude? Meaning you're actually going to be able to keep up with the accounting of doing the rental property right, where it's reported on your tax return, where you're doing all the repairs right. You have somebody who's going to kind of take away the stress of somebody calling you at 3 a.m. because they have a big leak in the house. And just make sure you have that desire. I'm not going to get mad at you either way, because like I said, you are at the beautiful crossroads of two incredible opportunities. But just make sure you measure twice, cut once, and do what works in your life appropriately. What I don't want you to use is turn this beautiful situation disregard the financial order of operation, disregard the guardrails that are going to keep you out of the financial ditch, and then turn this beautiful thing into an actual nightmare. Don't fall into that trap.
And this is a prime example of where personal finance becomes incredibly personal. It's unique to your specific situation.
Love it. Ryan, good question. Thanks for being here. We always appreciate hearing what's going on in your financial life.
Hey, Brian, as we're recording this, it's the time of year, and look, I know you are a little bit more sentimental at this stage and age of life, and this is the time of year we get to talk about all the things that we're thankful for, and you were saying some stuff pre-show. You're just talking about, you know what? Life's pretty good. Things are pretty good. This thing that we're doing is pretty good. And I just wanted to acknowledge what a heart of gratitude that you have, and it influences all of us around here. And I'm thankful that you do that for us.
No, I am very thankful for what we get to do. I mean, I had a studio tour come by last week, Jody.
Hey!
And she was so sad she missed you, Reby. I think she was sad.
That's so
I went ahead and
nice.
cut her off at the Paspo and told her that you were unavailable. You were in a meeting.
She specifically said, "Oh man, I wish Reby was here." And I was in a meeting, and there was no.
I say
Sorry,
that with
I don't think I was in
obviously,
office that day.
But I tell you that just because you guys have no idea how much you're the rocket fuel for when I meet you guys and you come in and you share how your life has been changed or some piece of content that kind of helped you out. Even Megan, one of our main writers here, shared something that her parents heard on our show. I mean, she probably doesn't realize that little sidebar comment really motivated me in ways. And that's so I have a heart of gratitude in the fact that you guys have made this possible. We're already way beyond where I ever thought this thing was going. Not Bo. I think Bo still thinks we're probably at the 60% mark. But I am way beyond where I ever thought. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for making all this possible. It means a lot to us. That's why we try to load you up. If you go to moneyguy.com/resources, there literally is an entire library of free information to try to get you to be the better version of yourself that much faster.
I'm thankful for every subscriber we have out there. And if you're not one of them, make sure you subscribe right now to the channel so that I can also be thankful for you hanging out and doing this with us every single week.
And then last thing, I'd be crazy. 2024 was the year of Millionaire Mission.
I love it.
And what's funny, I'm still a sucker. I'm out there reading the reviews.
No, you're not.
I am.
You're
I'm
not
still reading the
them.
reviews. The other
Wow,
thing,
you haven't mentioned it. I'm impressed.
I know. It's my own little guilty pleasure. You guys are still super nice. I keep thinking at some point we're going to be done with all my financial mutants and we'll actually see what the public really thinks. But there's still a lot of you guys that are still buying the book. The other thing is every week, and Reby knows every Thursday I get the sales numbers. And I haven't said anything, but it is crazy. Like clockwork, hundreds of copies of this sell every week. And then like last week, double the number of books just sold. And I was like, what caused that?
I know.
So
I actually saw that too, and I was like, I don't know why. People just like it.
Understand, but you guys make it all possible. I love that so many people have enjoyed the book. So 2024 forever will be the year of Millionaire Mission.
I love it.
True that. Good stuff. Well, speaking of loading people up with free advice, you want to do some more questions?
Hey, Reby, I'm thankful for you. I don't know if I said that.
That's
I'm
so
thankful that you
nice.
throw us these questions and you keep us on track and you herd the cats so incredibly well.
Now,
You know,
see,
I do
was
what I
sitting there,
can.
What's funny is you're sitting there thinking that. I was like, man, we should thank Reed. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have a whole room full of people. Let's just do.
I'm
Is this
thankful
like a
for all of
band?
you. Here all
Is
day.
this
I'm
where all of a
thankful for
sudden we're gonna
you,
let everybody do like
you,
somebody? He does a drum.
you.
Nate does the drum solo. We let Nick
like a
get
lot
up
of-
there on the bass and
I
start
love it.
ripping some. I mean, what are we gonna do here to make sure everybody can introduce themselves and how thankful for we are? And then Matt, we have to make
I don't
Matt
know if we're
happy.
set up for that
Everyone is doing
production
this
level.
behind the scenes.
Matt's like, there's certain groups like the media. You don't want to upset them because they can just kill you with unlimited publicity and other things. That's the way Matt
That's how
over
our
on
social
social
media
media
is.
is. You
Oh,
don't
he
want
can
to.
post
You got to
whatever he
keep him
wanted,
happy
technically.
because he could. Tell him what he's going to put out
He could
there.
end us. That's right.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, in the spirit of keeping us on track, since you're so thankful for that, Military Money Minute has a question for you. It says, super excited for the show. Dumb question.
No dumb questions.
Right, that's what I thought. That's why I'm asking it. Even though I'm maxing out my 401k at work, I don't feel like I'm saving enough. How do you deal with this feeling?
This is, Brian, we've talked a lot about this because a lot of financial mutants have this, I don't know if it's insecure. I don't know if it's insecurity or lack of confidence, I'm not doing enough. I'm not saving enough. I'm not. It's one of the very reasons why we came up with the financial order of operations. Brian, will you hold the thing up? Can you hold the thing up for me?
Oh yeah, I can do it. I can do it.
It's one of the reasons we came up with this 9-step tried and true process of what to do with your next dollar. If you want your free copy, you can go to moneyguy.com/resources and download yours. One of the reasons that we did that is we wanted to free financial mutants from that thought. Oh, am I doing enough? Oh, am I putting my money in the right places? Oh, am I making the right decisions? If you can follow the financial order of operations and you can arrive at the place where you're saving 25% of your gross income for the future, for your future financially independent self, what that allows you to then do is free yourself from the guilt and the lack of confidence and am I doing enough? It's why we came up with the 25%. A lot of people think it's this restrictive thing that's going to make it difficult and hard and I've got to like strive to get there. It's actually the exact opposite for true financial mutants. It is a liberating thing that once I get that, then I can spend abundantly on all the stuff that I want to spend on and all the areas that I want to spend because I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the places I'm supposed to be doing it for my future self. So one of the things I would ask Military Money Minute is, all right, if you're maxing out your 401k, what's your gross income? And are you at 25%? And have you been following the FOO? And do you have a fully funded emergency fund? And have you done the Roth? And have you done the HSA? And have you done all of these things? And if you have, then you can relax and know that you're doing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing.
I think about all the content that's out there in personal finance. You know, forever, Susie had tremendous success is that people would call in and say, hey, I want to go get my hurt dog needs to have their leg, fixed. And she'd be like, no. Put them down. Hey, I haven't taken the kids on vacation in 6 years. Can I take the kids and lose Susie? No. And I think truthfully, this is why as humans, we sometimes I love the human condition, but there's other times that you're like, man, sometimes we just like watching negative events occur in place. And that's where those shows, and even Dave, I think a lot of times people, it's kind of like going to a NASCAR event. There's more people listening to Dave to hear when is he going to yell at somebody.
That's right.
Kind of like you go to watch and see if there's going to be
a car crash. You don't go for the left turns.
Or maybe a hockey match where you're hoping there's a fight. I think it's the spectacle of those things that draws people in. And then here we are. We're kind of loading you up with all this, financial mutant knowledge. But there is a true risk that I deal with all the time is that anybody who's good with money, and you realize pretty quickly after you start learning the basics that you have a risk within yourself, is that you could very easily go from financial mutant to financial miser. That's a disaster because it's going to make your loved ones around you miserable. You're going to miss out on a lot of life by thinking that this sum of money that's waiting out there some point in the future is going to solve all your problems. And that's why we've tried to, and people think, why did y'all come up with this? Why are you selling this? And because we give away so much. And I think you guys get used to everything being free. But then every now and then they're like, no, we can't answer this because finance really is personal. We need to give people a tool so they can figure out, are they ahead of the curve, behind the curve, or right where they're supposed to be? So that's why we came up with the Know Your Number course. It's not only a course, it's actually a tool, so you can actually type in all your data points. You can play around with your savings rate, the inflation rate, your rate of return, and it's going to tell you, hey, are you on track to reach your goals? Are you behind? Because one of my favorite things about being a financial planner, I think a lot of people get it wrong, and they get this false impression by the Susies, the Daves of the world, and that they think everything we do is that we are the brake.
Just the no.
We are not the brake. My biggest thing is to try to train financial mutants to enjoy and maximize this one life that you have. Now, look, I don't mind being the bad guy when I need to be the bad guy, but most of the time I'm the coach telling you, hey, it's A-okay. Go live your best life, because that's what our secret sauce is. I'm a numbers nerd, but I am the most sentimental person out there on the future. And I'm trying to help you get that perfect mix, that recipe that lets you get to be your older self and look back at your 20s, your 30s, and 40s and go, man, I did that right. And yet I still have reached all my financial goals. And that's what we're building here with the Money Guy Show.
That's great.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you, Military Money Minute. And we are always appreciative of everybody being here and continuing to ask great questions. Jack W. has another question for you guys. He says, I'm 18. Headed to...
Hey,
I
good
know,
for
ready?
you for tuning in
You
to
love
Money
these.
Guy Show.
That is, when I look at our demos, we do great. From 25 to about 45, we are locked in.
Sweet spot, yeah.
But, and we never have to worry. When all the kiddos get brought in and they say, hey, is your content, because we have to make sure... Jack, you are an outlier, and that you're going to be the better for it, because let me tell you, I don't even do it. Yeah, I do have it. 18. Every dollar an 18-year-old has is worth $108. Wowzer.
So speaking of that, the question says, I'm headed to college and wondering what's the best thing to do with my money investing-wise. School is paid for, which is awesome. Congrats. Nice. And I do have minimal expenses. So we've got a young and true financial mutant on our hands right here. What would you tell him about investing while in college and personal finance in general?
I'm gonna go like theoretical and behavioral, and you can go specifics if you want. Here's what I think is the best thing you can do at 18. One, the entire world is your oyster. You have your entire life ahead of you, which means you have so much opportunity to unleash the eighth wonder of the world, which is compounding interest. And so what's great at the age of 18 is you kind of can't screw it up unless you don't do anything. And so what I would encourage you to do is, if you have minimal expenses and you have some sort of income coming in, maybe it's part-time work, maybe it's even excess scholarship or grant money because you said school is paid for, one of the things I would encourage you to do is figure out, how can I set up an automated investing plan? Maybe it's $20 a month, $40 a month, 50, 100, whatever the number is for you, start with something. And I don't mean like take $1,000 and go pick a stock and buy that stock today and hope that it does well, because that's like a 50-50 gamble. Maybe you pick a good stock, maybe you don't pick a good stock. What I want you to do is I want you to put some money to work every single month. And you can buy a low-cost target retirement index fund or a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. And every single month, have the same dollar amount. Just go to work and invest $50 a month, $50 a month, $50 a month, $50 a month. Because what I hope happens is, as you go to college at 18, and you go through, let's say you're going to be at school for 4 years, and you get to age 22, and you come out of school, I want you to look at that account that you've been dollar cost averaging into, and I want your mind to be blown at what's happened just over a short 4-year timeline, how much those dollars have grown. And what I hope happens is that you get addicted to saving. So when you start your very first job, now it's not, oh, okay, I'm only going to do $100 a month. I'm going to do 5% of my pay, 10% of my pay, all the way up to 25% of my pay. And if you can do that as early as possible, you are going to set your future self up to have tons of flexibility and tons of choices on what your life is going to look like in the future.
Jack, especially I love when a young person catches our content, because I'm going to go even outside of money here. Because you're getting close to going to college. Be very serious about being deliberate on not just choosing a job, but a career that you want to do for the rest of your life that actually can be rewarding. I think so many students, when I talk to them and I say, what's your major going to be? And I find out they don't really know. They choose something that sounds interesting, but they haven't thought about, what am I actually going to do with that major? Don't go because a class will be just interesting to you. I remember when I was at Georgia, I had an extra class because I'd exempted out of some math classes, so they let me just choose anything. And was it entomology, is study of bugs.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, this is the most interesting class that I've ever taken, and I loved every day that I was in that class. And look, I'm sure there's some very successful bug doctors or bug studiers, but if I would have chosen my choice of career off of what I found exciting on class load, that was a heck of a lot more fun to go to that class than it was accounting.
You mean governmental accounting and studying bugs are not the same?
Completely different. But that's why, Jack, you have to be purposeful with every second that you have, especially on a college campus, because it's not cheap. I mean, I will tell you, you need to be deliberate with your time on campus. So find a job that can be rewarding, but also has a market value.
What percentage of the general population ends up going to school and not even working in the field?
So let me give you, because I love this stat, and I love how just symmetrical it's come up in our last 2 surveys of our clients. 74% of people with college degrees do not work in their field of study. That is an absolute dumpster fire of decision making. Meanwhile, you look at our millionaire clients, we survey them, it comes between 72 and 74%, depending upon what year you look at our survey results, do work in their field of study. Do you see how you allocate? Part of being successful is allocating your time and your resources much more efficiently than the rest of your peers. So get a good job. Second thing, you are a billionaire of time. That's right. You might not have much money, but you have so much time. You're literally a billionaire if you count how many seconds you still have left to be on this planet. Don't waste that huge opportunity. People you're looking ahead of you, like who are in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, man, I hope I have that. You could have that, but they will never be able to have what you have, which is billions of seconds of time. Be very deliberate with that. I want you, everything that you come into contact with, whether it comes with money or time, I want you to think about, just like I tell you, $1 has the potential to become $108. If you can understand that concept, you'll spend differently, you'll save differently, you'll give differently because you understand what it's worth. And then I'm going to give you the other side, which is a little softer. Once you put some of these things into motion, and that's why we give you the financial order of operations, make sure you enjoy your 20s. Make sure enjoy your teens, and then enjoy your 20s, and then enjoy your 30s, because nobody likes a miser. But you've got to get the work in first, so then you can live your best life without regrets.
Favorite date night or favorite activity to do in college on a budget, like not having tons of money. What was the thing that young Brian Preston said, "Now this is a good time. I would go do this when I was in college"?
Oh, it's different. Like date nights, I don't mind sharing. Here was the game plan for a financial mutant. I would actually spend money on the first 2 dates because you had to set the hook. But then after that, it was cook at the house, go hang out with friends, do trivia nights and things like that. But you got to set the hook first, and actually take them to someplace nice,
take them to Olive Garden.
But with buddies, I mean, I use some of my favorite memories. I even go back to high school. Is sometimes driving to things, like go to a concert or something. The time in the car, you have five guys piled into a car and you're just goofing off on the way to a concert. The driving to the concert in the car was more fun than actually the concert. And that's what, so just make sure, get around people you love spending time with, and then just enjoy that moment. Because I will tell you, as an older guy, I look back on my life and you don't realize those lightning in a bottle moments that you take for granted in the moment. And then you get, 20, 30 years beyond it, and those people aren't around. Maybe they live geographically in different places. And you go, man, make sure you find people you care about and try to get as much time with them as possible.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Jack, you're going to do so good.
Oh yeah. Jack W., really glad you're here. Thanks for submitting the question. All right, we've got a question from David L. He says, how should you save for a home? Using a high-yield savings account or a brokerage account with index funds? I'm curious what time horizon would make it safe enough to expect the higher returns from index investing. What do you think?
So this is we get asked this question all the time as well. And I think a lot of people are curious. Now, I can tell that David's been listening to our content because he kind of already set the table a little bit. When it comes time to save for a home, first question you have to answer is, how much do I need to be saving, right? A lot of financial personalities out there will tell you that when you buy a home, you must put down 20%. That is not something that we subscribe to, nor is that something that we have practiced ourselves in our own financial journey. For first-time home buyers, we give you a little flexibility. Rather than having to put down 20%, we think it's perfectly acceptable if you only are able to put down 3.5%, 5%, 10% on your first home purchase. We have an entire home buying checklist that you can go check out. You can go to moneyguy.com/resources and check that out. But you have to define, okay, number one, how much money do I need to save? And then the second thing you have to determine is, all right, what's the timeline on which I need to acquire these funds? Am I buying a home in the next 2, 3, 4 years? Or do I not know when I'm going to buy my home? I just have like this idea that one day I want to enter into home ownership, because depending on those two answers will dictate how you should begin thinking about accumulating those.
Well, I always, look, cash versus access to cash. If you really want to know how I think about this, guys, I literally gave you
I wrote the book on this.
in-depth story in Millionaire Mission on how I think is the biggest thing I run into with financial mutants is you guys think cash is trash and you do everything in your power to try to put it to work to actually your detriment when the music stops of bad things. Remember, when it rains, it pours, when bad things happen. So learn from me, read the section in Millionaire Mission. It's really when we talk about doing rainy day done right with cash reserves, you're going to hear what a knucklehead I was because I thought I was so smart, and you can learn from my experience. I would also give you a visual. If something is a solid vision, meaning that it is in the future and you know in the next 3 years that you're going to do something, that's liquid cash. I mean, because there's just nothing that, because you know it's coming up. There's always the chance that there's going to be a volatile moment if you have equity investment, especially S&P 500. You could lose 40% in about a 5-month period, and you'd be like, what the heck just happened? And you couldn't even react fast enough. Even you wouldn't want to react because, nobody tries to catch a falling knife. It's a disaster. So that's what can happen if you know something's happening in 3 years. However, maybe you're just in this stage of life, and this is something you and I are now at this point. Like, we have this commercial building, and you and I have enjoyed this commercial building, and we've decided, hey, we might want to do another commercial building. But we don't know. We're really waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right thing to come our way. So that's not a clear picture. That's a fuzzy picture. And there's no time frame. It might be 3 years. It might be 4 years. It might be 7 years in the future because there might need to be a big economic thing to happen for this to be good for us. Because that's so fuzzy, I am going to treat that as more of an opportunity to where maybe I'm going to have a balance of hey, I know I have enough coming up, plus I need emergency reserves. So this part here is going to stay in a high yield savings account because it's locked in. But maybe this part over here, because it's so fuzzy, I'm going to allocate a portion of this into investments so that money can actually grow and not just be sitting out there stagnant. So I would say, take a picture of what you're looking at and how clear is it. If it's within 3 years, lock it down. If it's out there more in the future, it's going to be more of a balanced of probably a mix of cash plus investments.
Agree fully.
That was great. Well, David L., I hope that helps you think through that. Great question. We really appreciate you being here. We love hearing what's going on in your financial lives so that we can speak to it and hopefully just help you think through it and discuss it and bring a little bit more
clarity.
Helping you bring a little bit more peace of mind to your financial situation. What?
I said clarity. I was trying to stay on the whole theme.
Y'all finish each other's sandwiches. You see that?
So
that was
cute.
Great.
Love it. Well, hey, we do really love answering these questions. We're here every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central. But in the meantime, or over the holidays, if you ever need to keep these questions going, keep these conversations going, head to moneyguy.com. Moneyguy.com/resources in particular is just chock full of free resources that are meant to be there for you when you need it, so you can do a little bit of a deeper dive on some of these things that we're talking about, or just have it documented so you can be reminded of it more often than just on our Tuesday live streams or podcasts and all of that. So be sure to head to moneyguy.com. We're really grateful you're here.
Guys, we love doing this, and a big thank you to you guys. I even missed a key part earlier when I was talking about Jody did the studio tour. She made my day when she said she was looking more forward to meeting me than going to the Post Malone concert. So you can tell us financial mutants, you guys are wired a little differently, and we don't take it for granted, and we love every moment that we get to create this type of content and give you all this information that we load you up with if you go to moneyguy.com/resources. And remember, what sits underneath all of this is that there's a better way to do money. So respect the foo. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen, Money Guy team, out.